Welcome back. I wonder whether I can just play, and I was going to ask you, Graeme, a little clip from, again, the Minister with regard to some of the remarks she made with regard to the question of education.
It's in our interest that there is quality education in schools. It's in our interest that our kids are comfortable. It's in our interest that our teachers have manageable sizes. It's in our interest also as a state to make sure that the working conditions, the school environment is conducive to learners, to teachers, but it's also our moral and our legal responsibility to ensure that every child has access to space.
You see, that's the point. It seemed to me that what the Minister was saying, I'll ask the Deputy Minister as well, we want everybody to have a great education, but everybody's got to be at school. So if they go to the lousiest possible school, better than nothing. And in a sense, on one level, and on another level, it's we've got a real problem here. Because what are we going to do if we can't have a sufficient quality of school for each child? We are going to actually inevitably have a process which is going to impoverish many children as we get this right. Well, how do we deal with that?
We can do a lot better, and we can.
How do we do a lot better? I think I've asked you this before. You, the Minister, the Deputy Minister, if I switched you with Enver Surty, what would you be saying?
I would say build the youth voice. So that's my second challenge to equal education, get the rest of the young people together, whether they're in learner representative councils or CORSAS. So let's hear more from the youth, and let's build those toilets. I mean, let's be there every single day building toilets.
Deputy Minister, I wonder whether I could ask you, I understand I've played that clip because it's clearly a problematic. And what worries me that children are only supposed to be at school for 12 years. If you waste 2 or 3, basically you're condemning them. So the question is, urgencies here are absolutely cardinal. And what Equal Education is saying, I want to just get your view on this towards the end of the last segment, was they say, well, if you don't have norms and standards, we then don't have a timeline to hold you responsible.
Well, look, I think it's a legitimate concern. Certainly we can't leave this to continue indefinitely. We have to eliminate, because of the dignity of our learners, we want to create an environment that is conducive to learning, and it must be optimal and within the context of the available resources, and therefore a plan is necessary. We certainly are not opposed or averse to creating and providing a plan for purposes of infrastructure. We do have a plan in terms of the provision of electricity. We depend on Eskom as an agency to do so.
Okay,
we
so you've got the problem that everybody has.
Okay. For them to do so. Pardon?
So you obviously have the problem that everybody has with some of that infrastructure. I sympathize.
Well, you know, that is the problem. But what we are saying is that we are doing as best as we can under the circumstances in order to ensure that we accelerate delivery. The CD program, for example, receives the support from the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Council to remove any constraints or blockages that could result in delays. This means that government as a whole is regarding the provision of infrastructure, particularly schools and health facilities, as critical and necessary in the context of what we should be providing to our citizens. But also in terms of what you've raised, and you know, Graeme Bloch has said so in his book, The Toxic Mix, that there are certain things that we have to do to get education right. Infrastructure is but one of the many. He says promote literacy and numeracy, indeed we are doing so. He says promote mathematics and science, indeed we are doing so. He says ensure that there is professional leadership and development by providing training, indeed we are doing so. Provide further resources, we are doing so in terms of the workbooks. Test your learners in terms of their progress, we are doing so. So in this paradigm, there are so many things to do and so many challenges that has to occur and be provided simultaneously. I think there should be a measure of understanding that government is doing as best as it can under the circumstances. It's good to have the oversight. We have no difficulties if equal education does so from time to time. But to demand a solution, to suggest basically that you've got to do it within 6 months, and a good example, Judge, is this. Last year, when we resolved the matter, and it was resolved not as an order of court, I think Helen Ziller was wrong out there between the parties to say we will publish the norms by February We did indeed do so. We invited submissions. We received submissions, more than 35.
Only
the
35.
question then arises, what do you do with these submissions? Do you simply become dismissive and proceed with the prescription of the norms that you had published, or do you apply your mind
Well,
to
your
it?
critics say
And
you should have
we
had a far
argue
greater
that-
debate then. I mean, the critics say there wasn't the kind of public engagement on this critical issue that there should have been.
Well, what Equal Education is saying, and they said it to us very clearly and unequivocally, they cannot wait indefinitely for the finalization of these norms. They have determined that we require only 6 weeks. We are not entitled to any more. And we said,
All right, okay.
if that is your view, let's go
I
to
need
court
to
and
ask
argue.
them, are you not
and in
being
fact, they decided they backed down.
Aren't you being unreasonable? The Deputy Minister says you're actually putting far too much pressure on it.
We are being very unreasonable because since 2008-9, she came to the office. She has been promising to adopt norms and standards for school infrastructure, and till now, it has been a full history of delays from the Department of Education itself.
Tell me this, if you get norms and standards published now, do you think it's going to change things?
It's going to change things because it's going to have timelines that allows the MESs to look specifically at schools that are in need, because right
Why
now
aren't they doing it at the moment?
they are not doing it
Why?
at the moment because there's no regulations holding them accountable
But
to
when
look at those schools.
all right, but let me ask you this, Graeme, you went to this trip that Equal Education, as I understand it. You saw these schools. The reports that I got, some of the stuff was appalling.
It was utterly appalling, and hardened journalists were in tears.
So why would
Literally.
an MEC then need norms and standards, for goodness sake? Why wouldn't they be in tears and just do something about it?
And that's why I'm a post-Tunisian boy, so I think you must kick politicians up the butt at national level and at provincial level. So good for EE for doing that. It may not be everything, but it's certainly one of the issues that we should be very worried about.
Deputy Minister, if I can just put this to you. I mean, Graeme Bloch says he went there, I read these reports. Apparently it was dreadful conditions. I'm sure you've seen some of those. Knowing you as I do, you must be equally disturbed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I cannot condone that. I cannot accept that as an environment conducive to learning. And that is why we are doing what we are doing in relation to the elimination of mud schools and unsafe structures. We're doing so by investing a great deal of money. We are monitoring that. We are indeed delivering, as we speak, a new school, state-of-the-art, including which has a library, a laboratory, computer lab, to our schools. It's not about something that we
can I have all three of you back?
And this will continue. This will continue in this year and next year. You can hold me to account.
I do want to hold you to
festive
account. And I
period.
want to ask you this. Give me a timeline when I can have all three of you back and we can evaluate.
Well, I certainly believe that in terms of my commitment of a school per week, you can hold me to account. Let's meet again next year within the first 3 months of next year.
Okay,
and
you're
see
on.
what progress has been
You're
made.
on. I'll have all three of you back and we'll discuss it. And I'll be playing
would be
back
wonderful.
to you what you've just said now. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is an absolutely crucial debate, and I am going to make sure that we have another program in this time, because we cannot let this issue rest. I accept readily that these challenges are awesome. The Deputy Ministers put them eloquently. But so have Equal Education and Graeme Bloch raised the kind of difficulties we have. The one thing is for sure. These children of this country are our future. We cannot allow people not to be able to have the kind of education that our Constitution promised and which people deserve. Are we doing enough under difficult circumstances? Judge for yourself. Goodbye.
News that moves. enca.com.